Okay, everybody, I am Brian Lee Durfee. You can see my name right there. I am the author of The Forgetting Moon and The Blackest Heart, both books published by Simon & Schuster's Saga Press. Today, I am here to show you my entire Ken Follett book collection. One of my top 5 favorite authors of all time. If you saw my top 10 favorite authors of all time, you know that Ken Follett was in the top, and I got every single book that the guy wrote. So let's get started. The dude does great thrillers, great World War II thrillers, just great thrillers. Not only that, but he is a world treasure. As a historical novelist, he has written some of our greatest historical novels in the world, including Pillars of the Earth, which we're going to talk about eventually in this video. But let's get to, the guy started just writing these thrillers. They're kind of like small John le Carré sized The Spy Who Came In From the Cold type thrillers. The very first 2 that he wrote was the Modigliani Scandal and Paper Money. The books didn't do all that well. These 2 books just kind of, he was a young guy. He was in his early 20s when he wrote these. And, they were just, hey, man, dude, you got published. You got published. Step number 1 in the career, right? And then he came out with Eye of the Needle, which I've got right here. Got a little paperback of Eye of the Needle. I don't have a hardcover. But Eye of the Needle took off like a rocket ship and became one of the biggest, most mega-selling thriller novels of all time. I mean, this book shot this dude into the stratosphere like the Da Vinci Code shot Dan Brown into the stratosphere. Like, The Hunt for Red October shot Tom Clancy into the stratosphere. This thing made Ken Follett like a household name for people who read books. He's almost a household name now. Clearly Stephen King and J.K. Rowling are household names. But then there's like another tier lower that aren't quite household names to everybody. Ken Follett would fit into that category. And The Eye of the Needle was bada boom, bada bing. Huge hit. And I have read this novel 5 or 6 times, and I got to tell you, deserving of the title of hit. And then he came out with a bunch of other thrillers. The Man from St. Petersburg, which did very well, a thriller set in World War I, whereas Eye of the Needle was set in World War II. Man from St. Petersburg, World War I, and then he had The Key to Rebecca, again set in World War II. And then he had Triple, another thriller that he wrote. And then he wrote this other thriller, Lie Down with Lions. So he had a good record of 2 thrillers that, got his name sort of on the map. And then these 5 thrillers here, which were all mega bestsellers, and he was known as the next Robert Ludlum. This guy was on a pathway to just being the next big time thriller writer, like Robert Ludlum, like Tom Clancy, like Frederick Forsyth, like all of those guys. And then he decided, I'm not going to write a thriller. He sat down for a couple of years, and he wrote this mega massive epic called Pillars of the Earth. And his publisher was like, this is a book about people. This is a 1,200-page book about people building a cathedral in southern England. We want espionage. We want thrillers. We want nonstop action. That's what you're known for. You're not known for historical novels about people building cathedrals down in Salisbury, England. And he's like, well, that's what I wrote. You're going to have to publish it. Reluctantly, they published it. Guess what? This book, Pillars of the Earth, not only went on to surpass Eye of the Needle and all of his other thrillers, this book, Pillars of the Earth, landed itself over time. This came out in 1989. Since then, this has been one of the top 5 selling books in the history of the planet. That's how awesome this book is. Not only that, but this is the book that got me started on Ken Follett. This is the first Ken Follett book I ever read because I remember when it came out and how it slowly built up this big uproar, and then suddenly the bookstores were all carrying it and everybody was talking about it and everybody was carrying it around with them. And then, the Oprah Book Club got a hold of it, and then it just went into the stratosphere and blah, blah, blah. And then the miniseries, this is the first, I read this in 1990. I think it came out in 88 or 89. It was the first Ken Follett book I ever read. I loved it. It's just one of those books that from the first opening sentence to the last, you are lost in a world that you've never thought you would ever visit. And if you want to see my review of Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth, just type in my name, Brian Lee Durfee, Ken Follett, Pillars of the Earth. The review will come up on your YouTube screen. I swear to God that it will. And you can see my full review of this here, but we're done talking about it. Because then he started writing... Well, he's decided to start writing more thrillers again. He's like, oh, that's my cathedral book. Let's get back to thrillers. So then he started, and these are in no specific order. These are all the thriller novels that he wrote after Pillars of the Earth. And we'll just start with Dangerous Fortune. I liked this one quite a bit. Thriller novel set in the early 1900s in England. And then we've got Night Over Water, another great hardcover. Look at the cover of that one. I love this cover. And we'll go over some of these covers as we go along. But look at that cover. This is a mystery, a murder mystery set on this big airplane. There's maybe only about 20 people on this airline flight from England to America, and there's a murder that's happened, and they've got to solve the murder on the airplane with only 20 suspects. One of my favorite mystery novels of all time. In fact, I probably should have put that one on my favorite mystery novels. Anyway, this one's Whiteout, another thriller he wrote in the early 2000s. Hornet Flight, another World War II thriller, which I love this cover. This probably came out in about 2006, 2007. Great World War II thriller. I love this. Hornet's Flight. Another one with another great cover. Another World War II thriller. Jackdaws with another great, sparkly, nice cover. Love these books. Love them. Every book he's written is super fly. Code Zero, another thriller. The Hammer of Eden. Now, this cover is a little lame, but what can you do? You can't hit a home run on the covers every time. Ken Follett, The Third Twin, another thriller. Good job there. And then A Place Called Freedom. This is a semi-thriller historical novel. This one's sort of like that movie Far and Away with Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman, if you ever saw that. Okay, and then let's get back to his huge historical epics. And let's continue on with, he wrote some sequels and prequels to The Pillars of the Earth. And he's done these just recently, within the last 10 years. So at Pillars of the Earth, huge, massive hit. And then he wrote the sequel, World Without End, equally as fucking awesome as this book. And a pretty decent cover, too, I might say. And then he wrote a sequel to that, which was A Column of Fire. So this was set in about the 11th century. This was set in about the 12th century. This was about in the 15th century. And then he wrote a prequel called The Evening and the Morning, which was a prequel to Pillars of the Earth, set in about the 800s. So we've got this entire series of historical epics about Vikings, about people building cathedrals, about people building bridges and castles, and about in this, and then in the 1600s about the Italian Renaissance and the Victorian Age, as it were. And then one of my favorite trilogies of all time. We can't leave out these bottom three books. My favorite trilogies of all time. Beginning with, it's called the Century Trilogy, and it follows 5 different families from the year 1900 till present day. And it starts with Fall of Giants, and we've got a family from Wales, we've got a family from England, we've got a family from Germany, we've got a family from Russia, and we've got a family from America. So we've got those 5 families, and all of their drama and all the interweaving plots that weave these families together as they go through World War I, World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the assassination of President Kennedy, and the Cold War, and everything in between. And it is called the Century Trilogy, Book 2, Winter of the World, and then Book 3, Edge of Eternity. Love, love, love these books. These books are really, really super good. I mean, everybody would love these. Everybody would love everything Ken Follett's done. I mean, I just can't. So anyway, I am rereading this one soon. So look for my review of The Fall of Giants coming up. And that is my entire Ken Follett book collection.